They say it's hard to find good help. Well, just ask Battle, Howard, and Brissett as they lose a 3-on-5 game against Boston College. Our thoughts, along with Bubble Watch, as Joe sizes up the Cuse within the quadrants. Fan feedback from this game, that should be fun. And Clemson comes into the Dome to wrap up regular season play Saturday, March 3rd at 2 o'clock. Let's go.
Make some noise, Orange fans. It's time for the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/Cuse Nation podcast.
All right, what's up, Cuse Nation? Thanks for tuning in to the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe. If you could please subscribe to whatever platform you listen on, that will really help us out and we'll be in your library as soon as the episode is published. We're trying to give you the most efficient, relative, and current show possible for Syracuse basketball and football. If you like it, please share it with your friends and family. All right, the Orange dropped to 8-12 overall, 7-10 in the ACC, losing to BC in front of 5,718 fans in Conte Forum. Chukwu, Merrick, Moyer, and Sidibe all totaled 6 points against the Eagles. Mark and Sidibe with zip. Sidibe, though, in his defense, he only played 3 minutes. Mark and Moyer played a combined 44 minutes and took one shot between the both of them. Our big three scored the first 41 points. Battle finished with 29 points, 7 for 18 from the floor, 10 from 11 from the line, and 5 for 10 from 3. Howard with 17, 6 for 20 from the floor. 3 of those were from behind the arc. Brissett with 18. He was 4 for 8 from the floor, 2 for 4 from 3, and 8 for 10 from the line. The Orange were lit up by 51.9% shooting from distance. 42 of BC's points came from three-point land. They also shot 41% overall. Kai Bowman led his team with 23 points. He was 5 for 8 from 3. The Orange turned the ball over 15 times, resulting in 19 points for BC. Syracuse did win the Battle of the Boards, though, 34-39. This was an important game, in my opinion, and we expressed that in the last podcast, Joe. They trailed 96% of the game, I think was the stat I saw. 96% of the game. And they got close at half and blew it. They blew it. They just couldn't keep up in the second half, and it was just with the fast break points and stuff, it was a free-for-all. So, Joe, we'll get into the quadrants and stuff next, but go ahead, give me your quick analysis and your grade for this game.
Yeah, the game was pretty bad. Kind of looked like we were just almost, tired from, coming off of games of playing North Carolina and Duke, both back-to-back in the same week, and, putting kind of all that into it. I know Chukwu got a little banged up. Boeheim said he's having a tough time jumping. Sidibe, it's still bothering him. I'm convinced that Moyer's foot's not 100%. And for the first time pretty much all season, it looked like the big three there, Howard, Battle, and Brissett, kind of just said, we know we don't have help, and screw it, we're just going to try to do it ourselves. And they gave it a little bit of a go. Made a little run when Robinson went out, like you said, before the end of the first half. But their defense, it just wasn't there. When you look at the team stats, what we talk about with them, and what they have to do to win. I mean, they got to the free throw line, hit 22 of 25. We out rebounded them offensively and defensively overall. They did win the turnover battle, 15-10. But like you mentioned earlier, when we were talking today, we ended up with more points off of their turnovers than they did ours. So that was kind of a wash. It just came down to the fact that they moved the ball very well. They were patient, and they just shot the lights out. I mean, 14-27, come on.
They outscored us by 1 point on turnovers, but we scored 18 points off of their 10. They scored 19 off of our 15.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, overall, when you look at that kind of stuff, it looked like this should have been a closer game until you actually look at the shot percentage. When you look at Boston College shooting 48% field goal percentage, 52% three-point percentage. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And then they made 19 of 24 from the free throw line, which is better than what they've been doing lately in the ACC. So we just ran into, a BC team that we beat pretty good, pretty handily. We had a great offensive showing when we played them earlier in the season at home, and they're coming off a 3-game losing streak, and they come home and to exact revenge against us, and they come out and have probably one of their better offensive games of the season against us to kind of get us back. So that's really all I got for that. As far as grade goes, I'm going to go C minus, and
it's better.
That's I was going to go C, but
just playing, dude.
I'm just saying it's overall, like I said, I look at both ways, and I think that was one of our more bad defensive. I mean, I don't understand. You have 2-3 zone. You know they're shooting threes. They only got 3 guys. Like, guard the 3 guys, make the other 2 beat them. Just do what other teams do to you and just hope that it works out for you. And they didn't do that. They couldn't find the shooters. And at this point, they should know that. So just overall, I thought it was just a lack of concentration, kind of lazy attempt, even though they were out there playing. It was just it wasn't crisp. And yeah, that's all I really got to say about that. Awful offense or awful defense. And other than a little spurt that we went on when just Robinson was out of the game in the first half, our offense wasn't really great either. So,
well, they had their 3 guards made at least 3 3-pointers. Kai Bowman was 5 for 8. He finished with 23 points. Robinson with 22 points. He was 3 for 8 from 3-point land. Chapman, he's just dangerous. He hit 5 threes and scored 18 points.
And what did I say? What did I say at the podcast? Because he fouled out in the game at home, and he had some bad fouls.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thought he was going to come back and – because I remember he hit 3 in that game early, but he had to sit out, and then he had 4 fouls, and he came in and got a real quick 5th. So I predicted that he was going to come back and have a big game against us because
he's dangerous, and Coach said he's just as good of a shooter as anybody in the league. And, And, last night he definitely was. The rest of their team, beyond those 3, had 22 points. So we had good defense and mediocre offense against Duke. We only allowed Duke to score 60 points in Cameron. And then this game was just the complete antithesis of that. I wouldn't say the offense was stellar, but it was decent. Scoring 70 points it's decent. Yeah. It's better than it had been earlier. The thing that killed me is Mark and Moyer. Okay, Mark, first of all, he looked like a ghost. Every time he got the ball was passed to him, he looked at the rim. He didn't even bother to shoot. And he was like, nervous. He looked nervous to me, and he was disrupted. The 189th ranked defense efficiency in Division I basketball, and he was just jittery and nervous looking, and I'm boggled by it. I don't even understand it. Moyer, he's averaged 17 minutes in Syracuse last 5 games, scoring 17 points total. Starting with NC State, he was 2 for 2. Miami was 0 for 0, never even shot the ball. North Carolina, he was 1 for 2. Duke, he was 2 for 4. In Boston College, he was 0 for 1. A combined 5 for 9 in the last 5 games. You mentioned that his foot's probably hurting him, and it could be. He gets up and down the court okay, but we don't really know what's going on there. It could be, So, but when you've got 3 guys out on the court that are doing all the business, everybody knows where to go. They're not threatened by Mark getting the ball, especially when they had one other dude shot up a ball in the first half. And you know what I'm saying? And so no one else was shooting the ball but the big 3, and that's easy. That's easy for a defense to slow them down. We scored. Yeah. They scored at what I mentioned. They scored 64 out of the 70 points. Brissett Howard in battle. So in the first game in the Carrier Dome with Cuse and BC, Syracuse had 11 turnovers to Boston College's 17. The Orange scored 17 points off of those, and BC scored 6. So that was one difference. In the game last night on Wednesday, BC scored 19 points off of 15. So in Syracuse, like you just mentioned, I just got a note here, I might as well say it. Syracuse had one of its best shooting performances of the season against Boston College, and like you said, they just flipped the script on us at home, and it is what it is. I felt like it was just crushing a little bit because of how important I felt this game was. But as we'll see, it ain't over till it's over. I remain optimistic because so you're saying there's a chance, because there's still a chance, right? So my overall grade for the game, though, was a D. It was a D. D minus, excuse me, D minus. So
D minus. Oh.
D minus. Consider all the circumstances. I know they were away. Normally, I would have given them a D, but we're talking about a team that we beat handily earlier. What was the stat, Joe? What was the stat you gave me today from the first game? We had 5 guys in double digits.
Oh yeah, that was the difference. The difference was that the first time we played them, the Moyer really didn't do too much. He only had 5 minutes. Howard Washington had 2 minutes. But Dolce, he played 35 minutes, and he went 12 points, 8 rebounds. And Pascal Chukwu, he went 40 minutes, played the full 40, 14 points, 7 rebounds off of 6 to 7 shooting. So we had, between Chukwu and Dolce the first time around, we had 26 points and 15 rebounds.
Yeah.
Out of 10 of 11 from shooting field goal. That was their percentage, 10 of 11. So, back to my. They had help.
That's my point. What
changes?
Well, obviously Boston College, they've improved. Okay,
they were motivated.
They've improved. And they came to play, and not that Syracuse didn't, because the hustle was there. I feel like these guys, like every game, they give it their all. They play their hearts out. But if you can't make a shot if you don't take a shot. Let's go. These guys battle needs help. Battle needs help.
But like something's going on, because I look at something like that Mark, and mentally he's been playing pretty good. And then you look back and you can say that you had one of your best games of the season, 12 points, 8 rebounds against Boston College, and he's been playing good against, better teams. So I just don't understand where his mental is to why this time around he was scared, like he couldn't play with them when he had one of his best games against them. So there's just no rhyme or reason for this team.
No, you're right.
Inconsistent as one of the teams as any of the Syracuse teams that I've ever seen.
Yeah. So. Well, give me your final thoughts on the BC game, Joe.
That was it.
Okay. All right. The 14 3-pointers for Boston College are the most the Orange have allowed since Colgate knocked down 4 of 35 attempts in the Carrier Dome on December 9th. Syracuse will finish with a losing record in the ACC regular season play for the first time since joining the conference. And finally, the Orange lead the all-time series over Boston College 47-26. All right, Joe. I mentioned I try my best to remain optimistic. We're looking at the quadrants here, especially when dealing with Syracuse basketball. It's kind of like you mentioned today. If I could only record our phone conversations, we wouldn't have to sit down and do a podcast, by the way.
That's our brainstorming. That's our meetings.
Yeah, exactly. As you mentioned earlier, that it's like football. Anything can happen in sports in general. But, if the chance is still there, then I'm going to remain optimistic. Though I was a little crushed after last night. We talked last week, rewind just real quick, if we lose against Boston College and beat Clemson, it pretty much erases that loss. So we've erased a few losses this year by coming back strong against a good team. So, Joe, where do we stand in the quadrants as of right now? What's our RPI? What's our strength of schedule looking like?
Just to remind our record and what you had already talked about, we're 18-12, 7-10 in conference, and to couple up on one of your facts there at the end of that segment there, I know you said it's the first time that we've had a losing record in conference in the ACC since we joined, but to couple that stat, it's the first time since 2006 that we haven't had a winning record in conference, so, or at least 500.
Oh,
so
that sucks.
Yeah. Right now, as it stands, we have an RPI of 50, strength of schedule of 16.
So we went up 4 points and RPI and 1 point in strength of schedule.
Yes, and I went ahead and looked at a couple other things. ESPN does a little basketball power index. They have us 52 there. I looked at Ken Palm, He's got us at 53. So we're kind of right around there in every single poll that I've seen. We're right around the 50s there, and right around the 16, 15 with strength of schedule, everything that I've seen. As far as the quadrants go, we didn't move from last week except for adding the tier 2 loss last night from Boston College. So right now, as it stands, we have the 5-0 in quadrant 4, 7-2 in quadrant 3. We went from 4-2 in quadrant 2 to 4-3 in quadrant 2 with the loss last night. And finally, quadrant 1, we are at 2-7. So again, it hasn't changed, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's not as many games going on now, because I know the smaller conferences, they've started their conference tournaments, and there's less games being played. So as we get into this weekend and then into the next weekend, there's going to be a week from this Sunday is Selection Sunday. So there's going to be less and less games played, and we'll be able to see things kind of start getting, going from being fluid to starting to cement some spots in and see where we fall. But definitely need that Clemson game now. Yeah, my opinion, the first must win. This is a must win. Yeah, absolutely.
Am I too optimistic to think, though, Joe, without you going into a 15-minute rant? Am I too optimistic?
Can't promise anything.
I know, right? Am I too optimistic to think that beating Clemson, okay, this is a hypothetical, so this is what bothers me about asking Joe a hypothetical. Beating Clemson and let's say we take 2 ACC wins, and get a play in a third, does that put us in?
Yes.
Wow. That's great. Can we do it? That ACC bracket is going to get. Obviously, we're not going to be a 10 seed.
Well, I think in some places, and I haven't seen where some places are caught up, and I've been going through and looking at stuff other than Joe Lenardi. I know Joe Lenardi's. I think he had us in our last the first 4 out or something like that. I went and looked at Bracketville, which is technically the most accurate.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's the most accurate website as far as bracketology goes for the last 5 years. Bracketville, I went and looked at that. They have Syracuse is the third team out behind UCLA and Texas. So even after that loss, we're still right there. And Clemson is a quadrant 1 win, and it's obviously it's our last chance at getting a really good win before this ACC tournament. After that loss yesterday, I checked it out, and we're definitely playing the first day. So there's 6 teams that play the first day and don't get buys, and we are locked into one of those games. And it pretty much looks like we're locked into playing either Wake Forest or Georgia Tech. So we'll be able to exact some revenge there, since those are the games that have hurt us the most this season, the away games that we lost to them. But we're definitely gonna be locked into one of those games in the first day. So you beat Clemson, you play a Wake Forest or Georgia Tech. You got to win You got to win that game, no matter who it is, if you want to make the tournament. And then from there, you're going to playing against just another team that's going to help the resume. And if we were to win that game, like you said, win the 2 games, then I think we're good, because even the next day you're going to go against one of the top 4 teams in the ACC that's had a double bye, and that's where you're talking about Clemson, Duke, North Carolina. So, yes, I do believe that winning those will pave the way, barring some crazy other variables that I'm not going to get into.
Right. Okay. So just to timestamp this episode right now, number 1 UVA is at Louisville. They're losing 12-24, I think. So, and we need Louisville to lose. And their last 2 games are difficult. UVA, and then they play NC State. So Louisville winning does not help us at all.
You can argue, because Louisville is one of our better wins. If they keep losing, then it might. If it drops one of our quadrant 1 wins down to a quadrant 2 win, then that kind of hurts,
Yeah, well, it was 12-23. I'm sorry, but anyway, all right. Well, that's it for the quadrants, and obviously this is going to be one of our last quadrant segments of the year. So we'll see where we end up next after Saturday. All right, go to facebook.com/Cuse Nation podcast. Thumb us up there. You can get on, you can get in this segment. This is the fan feedback segment. We're going to go over some things, a lot of negativity. I tried sifting through some stuff and finding some good things, but
good luck with that after a loss, buddy.
I didn't find much. Bubba says, if Moyer plays another minute this year, I'm going to scream.
Oh, God.
I mean, well, I agree with Bubba a little bit.
What?
Okay. I haven't been very hard on Moyer. We need Moyer because of our lack of depth.
No, that's exactly it.
I know, but I was ready to put him on the bus and send him back to Syracuse after his first half yesterday. Not impressed. And I went over his stats for the last 5 games. He's just another body out there in case we have foul trouble.
No, that's all we need.
I know.
I believe you told me today on the phone you hope he redshirt or transfers. I'm pretty sure you said that.
I didn't say I hope he transfers, Joe. I said I don't think he'll be back next year. He won't play next year with our recruiting class coming in, and I think we get a lot of these guys back.
I agree, and I'm not saying I don't agree or disagree with you. I'm just stating what you said.
Yeah, I know. I liked him in the beginning of the year too. I just think I don't think his heart's in it. John says this is rock bottom. Run off the floor by BC. Yeah, Joe. I mean, rock bottom.
Perspective.
Yeah. I mean,
rock bottom. There's 350 some odd schools, and we're ranked in around 50. So how about that?
Exactly. Kevin says, now I bring this up because I actually thought this during the game when when BC was passing the ball around like that and kicking the ball back out and getting those open threes. Kevin says, glad we played zone the entire game when it was clearly not working at all. Should have, would have, could have Boeheim just switched to man to just try it out. No one can hear you shake your head.
No.
No. Okay.
At this point, it doesn't surprise you. The only time in Boeheim's coaching history that he's played man is when he's had
Lemoyne and we lost.
Elite, and well, of course, that was to prove a point. But elite athletes that he knew could play man to man, and it wasn't man to man all the time. Last time I've seen him play man to man or remember him play man to man was when he had Derek Coleman and Billy Owens and Ronnie Cycling and Sherman Douglas and all those. I mean, a bunch of NBA players. So.
Yeah. Tom says if Tyus Battle comes back to the team next year, freshman Darius Baisley and Jalen Carey will completely change the way the team looks and provide the depth we need to get back to the top of the ACC. If Battle doesn't come back, it's going to be an up and down year. I don't know. Joe, I would go to you on this. I would go to you. If Battle doesn't come back, would it be another up and down year, you think? You're totally projecting here because we don't know exactly what our freshmen are going to do, but
exactly. I think that obviously him being here is only going to help, but I think it also depends on that transfer that we have that's sitting out this year, Elijah Hughes. He got to play and practice with the team this year, so I mean, even if Battle were to leave, he'd probably step right up into that role anyway. So I mean, the talent that we're going to have, even if Battle leaves, is going to be good enough. It's just how do we develop it throughout the year because they're going to be new faces playing with each other. Battle will just make it easier, but it won't make it easier on Boeheim in the minutes they're going to play. So
yeah, true, but the depth that'll be huge.
The depth is going to be huge, but I think obviously Battle would help because he's been here for 2 years. He's the leader. Him and Frank Howard seem to have the top of that 2-3 zone pretty good as long as they have people they can trust behind them. So obviously that would help, but I'm not worried. It's just okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you were rambling. Timothy says you weren't rambling. I'm playing. Timothy says another fantastic showing, and none of these players are worthy of the NBA. Look at all the past bench warmers that thought they were good enough to leave. It's really hard reading stuff on social media when people don't use punctuation, by the way. I do my best. He mentions no one's worthy of the NBA. I mean, well, if Tyus doesn't go, if he's not projected in the first round, he's probably going to stay. I don't see anything wrong with that. And what?
No, I mean it's a good thing that none of them are seniors and they can all come back next year.
Yeah, that's not really a dig. I mean, it's kind of a dig, but you got to remember all these comments to it right after the game.
Yeah, I don't. But it's whatever. Who cares? Like, I hope they all come back. But either way, I mean, if they're not NBA worthy, then they don't have to go to the NBA because none of them are seniors. So
here, let's get the opposite view of that. Thomas says, "Does Battle stick around next year? Doubt it. Brissett, doubt it. Howard, yes, unfortunately, he's not a point guard. We better have a talented class coming on." Well, Thomas, I mean, you obviously don't listen. You obviously don't listen to the podcast, first of all.
You don't even have to listen to the podcast.
I know.
All you have to do is go to the ESPN recruiting rankings.
So he's just upset. He's upset. But, I get it. And I can sympathize with after the BC loss is one of the few times I I understand.
Yeah.
I understand it a little more. I mean, after Notre Dame, too, we were a little hard on them. But... if it's possible,
you never know. You never know when it's an over emotional fan or a troll too. So that's true.
But this guy's got a Syracuse profile picture. So
what's that?
He's got a Syracuse profile picture.
No, I don't care. That had troll tendencies. That comment.
Okay. Let's see. What do we got here? Let's end on a good note here. Dan says, "Damn people, I'm a lifelong diehard Cuse fan too, but." What's with some of the comments? There are still a bunch of guys busting their butts to win ball games. I hope for their sake they don't read what their quote-unquote fans are writing about them on here, ... Dan, I highly doubt they read social media. Right? I mean, maybe they do. I probably would. It would kill me, but I would do it. But I think they're probably... so used to the ridicule, I'm not sure if it bothers them. These kids got thick skin, man, and they know when they screwed up, No,
I'd be willing to bet that Boeheim kind of gives them a little bit of a training on that as well, as far as the media. Well, just social media and media altogether. I mean, with Boeheim being in this town for as long as he has, he knows what kind of fans and media and stuff that comes up. So he knows what it's about.
That's true. All right, Facebook.com/Cuse Nation podcast. All right, Joe, Saturday, March 3rd at 2 o'clock, Clemson comes into the Dome, senior night, last game of the regular season, wrapping up. Clemson right now is ranked 18th. I guess they'll still be ranked 18th, won't they?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is our last chance to beat a ranked team, our last chance for a signature win. It's at home. It's the last game of the season. It's 2 o'clock. It should be packed in there. What do you think?
I think that, again, we talked about it. Must win. Got to do it. Yeah, it's just it is what it is. Because if we lose this game, then the task and the feat that would have to be accomplished to get into the tournament, I don't think this team has. No. I don't think the team has what. I don't think it has what it takes. And then some of it has nothing to do with them. And some of it just has to do with the whole way that this season's gone and their health. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to face this type of talent with the team like in the state that we're in as far as depth, injuries, experience, so on and so forth. So again, this Clemson win is kind of a big. This is definitely the game of the year. That's why I pray that. I mean, there's going to be no seniors except for maybe some freshmen. So it's not like we're going to be sending some people out on. But I pray the fans come out at 2 o'clock on Saturday. It should be another huge crowd. And Clemson, like you said, 22-7, 11-6 in the ACC. They beat Florida State last night and solidified. Right now they have the 3 seed, but they solidified a top 4 seed for a double bye in the ACC tournament. Their RPI is 8, strength of schedule 14, and on KenPom they're ranked 18th compared to our 53rd. Their adjusted offense is 56 to our 126, and their adjusted defense is 5th to our 10th. So that tells you that they are a very, very good defensive team. They have played a lot of close games this year. Very, very experienced experienced team. They run mostly 3-guard set. Marquise Reed, 6'3" junior guard, 16 points a game. Gabe DeVoe, 6'3" guard senior, 13 points a game, and Shelton Mitchell, 6'3" guard junior, 12 points a game. So those guys are going to be the main guys that you're going to have to worry about passing the ball around, try to get it inside, stuff like that. Those are their main scorers. They also have a 6'9" junior forward, Elijah Thomas, who averages 10.5 points and 8 rebounds a game as well. So they don't go too deep, but again, it's just their experience and their defense has kept them in so many games, and that's why they're in the position that they're in. That's why they had the non-conference record that they had. So it's going to be a tough game. They're going to be able to have patience to pass the ball around and stuff like that. But again, I do see a little bit of lack of height. And again, they're a 56th adjusted offense. It's not like they are scoring machines. So it seems to me like they're a beatable team, but that adjusted defense fifth, it just comes down to whether or not those three guards can stop our big three and if they're going to play what kind of defense they play as far as if they switch up, if they pressure, if they go full court. Don't really know what they plan on doing, but they're tough, man.
Yeah.
They are tough.
They are tough, and we were wondering if they were kind of slipping a little bit and maybe.
Well, they had that, yeah. Clemson, they had a Grantham, one of their best players. He had gotten hurt, and he was out for the year. He was a 6'8" senior, another forward to go along with basically the four that I mentioned. That was their starting five, and that, I mean, he was a great defensive player as well. So who knows what would happen to him? I know they went a little 3-game skid. But they've won 2 in a row, and again, like I said, they're up there. They're 18th. They're looking at a pretty good seed in the NCAA tournament, double bye in the ACC tournament. So, I mean, you never really know what team you're going to get. Maybe they sleep a little bit. Maybe they fall asleep a little bit because
maybe
they know they got the double bye wrapped up.
And Syracuse is way more motivated right now. Well, they should be, I should say. I don't know if they are. They should be way more motivated to come out on Saturday, last regular season game of the season in the Dome against a ranked team. Your season's kind of on the line there. If you can't make a good showing there and win that game and bring some momentum going into the ACC tournament, I don't think you make any noise at all. Your confidence is, we've seen it with Merrick the past couple of games. Your confidence is key when you're playing at this level, and to lose another game that would be 4 in a row, it would crush them. It would crush them, I think. And
well, if they lose another game, I mean, it's pretty much that's it.
Well, yeah,
that would be the end of the line.
Yeah, that would pretty much be it. I mean, you could still say, oh, well, they could win the tournament. I mean, we've pushed off and made our scenarios as it's dwindled down, as the options have dwindled. We have clung on to every one of them, and at some point, you got to give it up. And for me, it's the Clemson game. So
well, and you know what, too? At some point, I mean, like you said, a lot of it has to do with just where they are. How much are they going to get some rest and get some training and get in the training room and get some therapy to get help to be ready, and where are they going to be as far as gas tank fatigue wise with the season coming to an end and stuff like that. Again, I mean, this is just your last chance. Like you said, we got to go out and give it their all, and hopefully. Well,
they look worn out. They look worn out against Boston.
Oh, they
College.
do. Yeah, but I mean, they're going to come out and still going to give it their all, just like they have every single game. And whether it be limited, how they're playing, they always give you pretty much maximum effort, barring a few spots throughout the season.
They really have.
Honestly, you can just only hope that. I hope we get the biggest crowd that we've had all year, and that the fans can come and reciprocate, because we really need this game. And another thing that's kind of a big thing is if we win this game, then we stay in the 11 seed range as far as ACC tournament. And the difference between being an 11 seed and a 12 seed in that ACC tournament is whether you play at noon on Tuesday or at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. So if we can keep that 11 spot, then that just maximizes a little bit more. It gives you pretty much half a day of rest to be able to get ready for that ACC tournament.
Exactly.
And like we said, you never really know. You get this Clemson game, and then you get that first game against Wake Forest or Georgia Tech or whoever that is. That puts us to 20 wins. You don't know what other teams are going to be doing, and who knows, that could be enough. So you don't really know.
I wanted to, and at some point we're going to get into the one and done rule and some of this NCAA stuff with the investigation. We've just been so cram-packed with just putting on the regular show that when other stuff pops up, it's difficult. So,
well, yeah, and you know what, though? There's a lot more stuff that's going to be coming out with that investigation, especially as we get closer to the tournament and during the tournament. So, and with us being on the bubble and with, all these games and stuff, we might as well just wait until all the information comes out.
We'll wait until it comes out.
Let's not jump to the conclusions like ESPN and get a coach fired.
I'm eager. Yeah, right. I'm eager to give my opinions on the NCAA and the one and done rule and what they do to these kids. And
I know you love bashing the NCAA. We can talk about that all day long. I know
exactly. So I'm eager to talk about it. But we'll make it a special episode sometime or something. But just so you know, where it's not like we're like dishing, putting it aside and not paying attention to it. It's just that doing.
We're just waiting for all the facts.
Yeah, that's right.
No fake news out here.
Yeah, no fake news. All right. So we appreciate the listen. Look, we'll be back after Clemson to wrap it up for the regular season and see where we're at and go from there. So if you could go to, I'll say it again, facebook.com/Cuse Nation podcast. Thumb us up there. Go to Twitter if you would like to go to Twitter. We are at Cuse Nation Show. Give us a follow on Twitter. That's what they call it. That's what the kids call it, a follow. So,
follow.
So that's it. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
You just heard the Cuse Nation podcast with Sean and Joe.